Leash, another off-season edition. Mark Schwab, Fred Greetham, Chris Fry. In with us today. The ladies are off. Well, they're not off.
No, they're not off.
They're off from this show. They are hardworking in New York City as the Cavaliers and Knicks are into the Eastern Conference Finals. So no Browns talk for them. They'll be doing plenty of Cavs talk, but there are still things to discuss with your friendly neighborhood football team. Guys, the news of last week, which we never really got to on this show, but we'll spend a little bit of time on it before getting to the upcoming camp, is the schedule was released. And the Browns did it in their, every team does a theme. You know, the Browns went with a Street Fighter theme. I kind of like this. It's a different look.
A little throwback.
You always wonder what kind of theme will each team take. And the Browns, I think anytime you can dial into like an 80s, 90s video game look,
absolutely,
I'm going to like it a lot. So I don't like to do the schedule game. The schedule game is the game where you go up and down. You say, that's a win, and I think this is a loss, and I have them for 9 wins. I hate that. I think it's dumb. If you want to do it, though, go ahead and do it. I don't care. But what I want to do is just, you can still things to discuss here. Because you look at it, and you're looking at an opener and a closer, and where's the bye, and do you have any long stretches of what you like, what you don't like? Fred, I'm going to start with you. What jumps out to you about the Browns' 2026 schedule?
You know, everybody made a big deal about the winning percentage of their opponents. It was like 429. It was the easiest schedule on paper because of winning and losing record. 4 playoff teams, but they're playing 3 of them in the first 4 games from a year ago. And you open up with back-to-back in Florida. We all know how hot it is in Florida, especially in September. You know, Todd Monken has a young team, and they're going to have baptism literally by fire in those first couple games. Jacksonville should be pretty good. Yeah. They were a 13-win team last year. And then you got Baker Mayfield. Yeah. And so, you know, right off the bat, you know, to me, you're playing 3 of the 4 teams that made the playoffs last year in your first 4 games. There's only one other playoff team from last year you play the rest of the year.
Fred, if you don't mind, can I borrow your schedule? I'm prepared, but I'm not prepared. But I know what my thought is.
Yeah, go for it. No, I understand you don't have it memorized.
Yeah,
you need it in front of you. You don't have a screen on you.
So the stretch where they are on the road, and then they have, 5 weeks here in Cleveland with that bye week in the middle?
Yeah, so we're talking about starting with the Titans game.
Yeah.
Or not the Titans, the Texans.
Texans game.
The Texans starts the stretch of home games.
Right.
And this is one of the things I was going to notice. Yeah, they go Texans at home, then the bye. Then they got the Raiders, and they don't play on the road again until they got the Giants.
December. That is
they have to stay afloat.
I agree.
You know, up until the bye.
And that may be the thing, having that advantage, 1, that home stretch, and 2, the bye week, which is almost smack dab in the middle of the season, so it offers some kind of competitive balance. But Fred, you're right. At that particular point, if the ship is wavering a little bit, that home stretch may provide them the boost they need if they're in that playoff hunt.
Yeah.
That gives them 4 weeks, 5 weeks to kind of reset in front of a home crowd, and that may give them a competitive edge.
Yeah, it's like, can you stay alive through them first 9 games? I think to stay in the hunt, so to say, you got to win 4 games out of the first 9, be 4-5 before, you know, you come back home. And that's that. You know, those teams on paper don't look brutal on the road, but Tennessee's probably on the rise. Baltimore or Pittsburgh is always a loss. Yeah. You know, they've lost like 20 years in a row there. The only game they've won was the playoff
game. True.
Right.
And then New Orleans, you know, again. So,
you don't know.
You know, your season could be buried by those when you come off the road.
Yeah.
So your goal is with a young team to be ready enough to try to stay afloat. So maybe now you have your sea legs for, like you said, that second half of the season.
Right.
But if you don't, I think 6 of the first 9 games are away.
Right.
If you are buried on the road, then it's wait till next year, and all the talk in the second half will be like we did all this year. Talk about the offseason, the quarterbacks, and what it's doing.
Yeah. We're into the offseason draft talk. As I always say, you're talking draft before Halloween, which is where you don't want to be. So for me, it's kind of a few things, a couple of things you guys mentioned, but I'll add a little bit to it. Right away was the temperature games of the first 2, the Florida. I thought of the same thing. A lot of cramps, right? We're gonna be here seeing a lot of cramps.
Pickle juice. Pickle
juice is what we. Yeah, you're right. That's what
Pickle
works.
juice, yeah.
The Baker matchup early.
Yes.
I wish that were here in Cleveland. You'd like to see that. But, all right, whatever. He's still going to have a chip on his shoulder because he's Baker Mayfield.
Of course
he
he
lives with
is.
a chip on his shoulder about everything. The 3 in a row, they have these stretches where there's 3 on the road right before that big stretch at home, obviously, but 3 or 4 on the road to close the year.
Yeah.
I'm not real crazy about that. I mean, the Giants, we don't know what they are. They could be good. They might not be. The Ravens are always a problem. Cincinnati, as long as Burrow is upright, they're a problem. The Colts, who knows what they are.
Right.
But you have 3 or 4 on the road to close the year. Makes me a little nervous because if for some reason they are in this, and I could tell you a story where the Browns are in this, that's just not a favorable way to end a season. Home and road doesn't mean everything, but it does mean something.
Right.
And so that's some of the stuff I noticed was, the hot start, the big bunch in the middle at home when you count the bye, and then the 3 or 4 on the road to close. But I think I am glad, as much as we don't get, I wanted to see Baker back here, I am glad we get Kevin Stefanski back here.
Oh, yeah, that crowd's going to be raucous.
I want to know how the fans react to him. I'm assuming they're going to boo, but there were people upset that he got fired, Fred. I don't know. Am I getting nuts here?
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of the punching boy a lot of times. And it was the last 2 years, obviously, his record, he was the toast of the town at the beginning and twice, he got coach of the year, so it was all over the place. But I do think, depending on what the Browns are doing at that point, but I think there'll be a mixed review, but I think more than ever, they just boo everybody that's in, that comes back, even though it isn't his fault. He didn't really want to get fired. Looking at another thing to take away the schedule is, big picture, the NFL doesn't think too highly of the Browns. 16 1 o'clock kickoffs on Sunday means they don't expect anything from the Browns. It's great from my perspective. I don't like those 9 o'clock games at night or all over other countries. Only one primetime game, so that's 2 years in a row. Between 2 years, they got one game, at night. Yeah. And it's that Thursday night home game with the Steelers, which they've been pretty good at those games. So, I mean, overall, the NFL isn't expecting much, and so that's what it's going to come down to is how they're playing, especially
late in the season.
Late in the season. And the one thing I want to say about the weakness of the schedule, there were 6 teams with 8 and 9 records. So that means they were just about there. But that's like the Bengals. They're not an 8 and 9 team if Joe Burrow plays. The Ravens aren't 8 and 9 if Lamar Jackson plays. And he missed several key games last year. And so it's a little deceiving. A lot of those teams had bad records because they were missing quarterback play. And you could say that with the Falcons. Penix missed, a bunch of games.
Yeah.
And so, it's a tougher schedule than it looks
I agree.
on paper.
Yeah, the game I'm probably most excited about, and you mentioned the playoff teams early, but I do think a lot of those are winnable. Jacksonville's really good. They're 13 wins, and obviously it's the NFL. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But you'd look at that as that's going to be a tough game for the Browns. I don't know what Tampa is this year. Carolina was a playoff team, but they weren't even They didn't even have a winning record. Now they've continued to improve, and
they have.
Bryce Young has got better every year, but that's not a juggernaut. I am dying to know what the Steelers are this year, and we're going to get to them in just a moment in the next segment. But different coach, not Tomlin, who was really good at making something. I don't want to say something out of nothing. They were never nothing, but he was always good at elevating them. We're going to
overachieving is probably the right word.
He was he had a way like Terry Francona had with the Indians and Guardians. Well, in fact, here, let's just take a break because when we come back, we're going to get into the Steelers a little bit because obviously, if you're talking about the division, there's Aaron Rodgers news and stuff like that, and the Browns are coming up here with a camp. And I don't know who's got the better quarterback room. We'll talk about this. Stick around. All right, Off the Leash continues, guys. And a true-false question. We always start the second segment with that. So we let off the schedule and got into the Steelers. And I'm like, I better shut up because this is going to take me right to this segment. True-false, you would rather have the Browns quarterback situation than Pittsburgh's quarterback situation.
I'm going to say the Steelers situation.
So you say false. You would rather have the Steelers
I will say
situation.
false. And listen, Shador is still young. We don't know what we're going to get from Deshaun Watson. As much maligned and controversial as Aaron Rodgers is, off the field, and maybe a little bit on the field, whenever he is under center, at how old is he? 45 now?
43.
43, not far off. I'm going to take my chances with Aaron Rodgers. AR-12, I'm going to take my chances because I know what I'm going to get from him. Our quarterback situation with the Browns, I have no clue. Has Shador hit a ceiling? Will he improve? Deshaun, are we going to get the same player we saw 5 years ago at Houston? We don't know. But I do know what I'm going to get from Aaron Rodgers. Even at 43, I know I'm going to get some production.
Yeah, for this year, I mean, he's obviously not the long-term answer for them, but they were 10-7, and he really didn't do anything but what we've been saying, what we wanted out of Deshaun Watson or, in the last 2 years was just average at least. Just don't kill the team.
Right.
And he killed the team before he got hurt. That was historically bad.
Yeah.
And you really don't know if Sanders is going to take you where you can count on him to be at least average. And so, yeah, all you can say about, Rodgers is at least they leaned on their defense. If you look at, they didn't have a running game, and they didn't really have that much of a passing game, but he didn't mess it up. And that's, at this point, you look at the Browns, for them to have a chance this year, the quarterback's got to at least play average, above average, and not mess it up.
I will say off of this, we said last segment about how Mike Tomlin was able to elevate, even with Aaron Rodgers, no running game, no passing game. They leaned on the defense, which wasn't that good last year, if I'm not mistaken, because they had a lot of injuries
They had
also.
some problems.
And they were still 10-7 with a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Now imagine, if you will, if he had weapons and a decent running game, that's a better team. Once again, I say I'm taking Aaron Rodgers against the field all day against, of course, not against with the upper echelon quarterbacks, but I'm taking Rodgers.
Yeah, I would say we're all going to agree here. I'd say false. I would rather have the Steelers. I can tell you a story where the Browns end up with a better quarterback situation than Pittsburgh does by the end of the year. I don't think it's likely.
Yeah.
It's just more likely that Pittsburgh has a better quarterback situation this year than the Browns.
Agreed.
For the Browns to do that, you're either banking on a fifth-round pick turning into a franchise quarterback. I don't think that's happening. It's not likely.
I mean, it's still
or you
early.
Get Deshaun.
Yeah.
Or you get Deshaun figures it out.
Houston Deshaun.
Or a sixth-round pick.
Or a sixth.
Oh, well, hold on now.
Taylor Green.
I don't know about that.
Come on down.
63% percentage career in college. I don't know if that's going to cut it in the NFL. Man.
But kind of building on the McCarthy thing, and with Tomlin, I kind of compared it to Tito in the sense that he always got guys to play up a level.
Yeah.
And this is why they always made the playoffs. Everyone knows they always made the playoffs out in the first round, but they got them there. And I remember I asked Terry Francona one time, how do you do that? And he basically said he kind of gave you an answer you would expect to get. Like, you have to, it's about building relationships with guys.
Right.
But what it does is it increases the buy-in.
Yeah.
That's the way I phrased it to him. I said, how do you get guys to buy in more so with you than with other guys? And Tomlin has that.
Oh, yeah.
Tomlin has that. I remember there's a guy who used to do radio in this market, Dustin Fox. You guys probably know his name, former Buckeye. Foxy played under Tomlin at Minnesota. And he said, I remember he would say things like, I would run through a wall for that guy.
Yeah.
That guy. Whether if he's my position coach, my coordinator, my head coach, whatever it is, that guy can get something out of me. And that's why Tomlin was so darn good at that. I don't know if they get that out of McCarthy, is where I'm going with this.
Well, it's all about being a leader of men, right? I mean, and you got to have that aura. And not a lot of coaches. I mean, we can look through all the sports, and we can pinpoint maybe about a handful of coaches who've been that guy that can lead men to say, I will run through the flames of hell for that guy.
Yes.
There aren't a lot of coaches like that. So, yeah, you've got to be able to have that cachet to be able to elevate those guys like a Tito or a Mike Tomlin. And, once again, is Mike McCarthy that guy? I don't know. Is Todd Monken that guy here? I don't know.
Yeah,
so, it's just a wait and see.
It's kind of the unknown. I know when Urban Meyer moved on, I didn't know much about Ryan Day, and you're like, okay, he stepped. McCarthy has a track record, and you're like, okay, he didn't really mess things up necessarily, but he didn't really take Dallas or whatever, or anywhere else, and so that's one of the mysteries of this. 3 of the 4 teams in the AFC North have new head coaches. You cannot assume that the Steelers are going to immediately, continue winning ways just because it's the Steelers.
Right.
Same way with the Ravens. They have a new head coach. Both those teams could derail, for whatever reason. And so, same way with the Browns, although they've already been derailed. It's you can't assume anything so that's where, to me, if the Browns got off to a good start, they have a chance because I think the AFC North's wide open. I think the Bengals, to me, are the favorite because they have the most stability other than their defense, And so that's where it comes to play.
I concur. Actually, right now, if I had to pick right now, I'd pick Cincinnati to win it because I think they've upgraded their defense significantly.
They have.
That's a separate show, though.
Yes, it is.
At some point, we're going to do kind of a behind the enemy lines type of show. We do Bengals, then we'll do Steelers, and we'll do Ravens. But we're moving on in this one. When we come back, we're going to get into camp. It starts this week. It is optional, but it's more than rookies. Vets and rookies on the field at the same time. Which vets will be there? I have a feeling I know who will not be there. Stick around. Off the Leash continues. Fred Greetham, Chris Fry, Mark Schwab with you. Leah and Ashley in New York on Cavaliers coverage as the Eastern Conference Finals getting underway here. Guys, we get optional mini camp. Is it mini camp or OTA? It's
OTA.
It's OTA. That's the optional. Mini camp is mandatory.
They have 10 OTA or off-season
Training, team activities.
Yeah.
Remember Butch Davis, just quarterback school. He just made up names.
This is the first week they're allowed to be on the field, like scrimmaging. It's a new phase, like phase 3. It leads up with 10 practices until the mandatory veteran minicamp, or June 9th to 11th. So you have 3 practices this week, 3 next week, and then 4 the following week. 1 for the media is the next 3 Wednesdays. So tomorrow we would be out there and be able to see them on the field. This is the first time the rookies will be in with those veterans that are there.
How much can you actually get out of one of these things? Like from a coverage standpoint, where we get an idea, this guy looked good or whatever. How much can you actually get out of this?
Not a whole lot, but the biggest thing is being able to see what we saw, like especially the wide receivers, what they looked like, kind of with the other rookies. Now with the Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond and some of the other guys to see how they stack up. But I think the biggest thing everybody will be talking about and writing about is reps again. At the quarterbacks, are we going to see Deshaun Watson running the first team exclusively? Shedeur Sanders running the first team exclusively? If they are all in one field, you'll be able to see. But if they split it up too, like Stefanski did, go, okay, the 1s and 2s are on this field and the 3s and 4s are on the other field. So it'll be interesting there. Now, Monken has said what he does one day could change the next day. So today they're out there. It could be all Watson. Tomorrow might be all Sanders. Who knows? And that's what everybody will talk about, to see how the reps are broken down. It doesn't mean, but he has indicated by the time they either get done with the veteran mini camp, go into training camp, that he'll have what he plans to do for training camp. Might not announce it.
All right, Chris, what would surprise you at quarterback?
Expound on that.
Let's say before we get to training camp.
Okay.
If something happened with some kind of an announcement, one way or another, what would surprise you? I'm catching you off guard.
No. I would say a surprise would be Shedeur Sanders elevating his game in the offseason to make it known that he is the clear-cut starter. That would surprise me.
Okay.
That would be the one thing.
That would be. There was two things that would surprise me. That. It would be even more surprising if they said Dylan Gabriel is the guy.
But that would be more than a surprise.
Nobody even really considered that an option.
Plot twist. There you go. Yeah.
Plot twist.
Dylan Gabriel. It was Dylan Gabriel all along.
But if they named Watson the starter, I wouldn't be surprised.
Which I think, by the way, I think that he will be the opening day starter. I think a lot of people think that if he's remotely healthy and he's slinging the ball around and he's moving well, I just think he's going to be the opening day starter.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll announce it, though, to be honest.
I agree. 100%.
I don't know. I'd be surprised if he says, this is the way we're doing it, because you got 6 weeks in between to let people mow. I don't know.
Yeah, when I said announce, I didn't even mean like this week.
No, of course.
But like before camp. So
agreed.
But yeah, that's going to get the talk and this is an off-season show. We do this every week, so we're going to have weekly, tidbits and news flashes. Mary Kay had something that had people talking, and there will be roller coaster news reports on this kind of thing.
The NFL never sleeps. It's 365, right?
I mean, Fred, I was on your show last week, and we talked about there's something seemingly every month.
Yeah.
This month it was schedule. Last month it was draft. Month before that it was free agency. Month before that it was combine.
Right.
Next month it's kind of the off season as much as you get, but you still get these OTAs and mini camps. All right, gentlemen, thanks for coming by.
Yeah, no problem.
Off the leash. In the books for another week. Fred Greetham, Chris Fry, I'm Mark Schwab. We'll chat you next time.